We live in a culture that is pretty much obsessed with productivity. But for now, most of us in organizations, and even when it comes to personal productivity, we measure productivity based on our time. So we believe that the more time we put in, the more productive we become, right? And this is where this whole obsession with productivity becomes. It's like, I can outperform this person. If I work longer than them, therefore I'm going to be more productive. But we should really start looking at productivity in a new way. And instead of measuring it by time, to start measuring it with our energy. Because after all, time is finite. We only have so many hours in a day, while energy, when we know how to use it properly, how to use it correctly, can be restored and renewed. So today we've got a really exciting topic to discuss, which is obviously on productivity, and to give you a different perspective on how you can become more productive, more focused, and in the meantime also save yourself a lot of personal time. So Sarit, over to you.
For me, from my corporate experience as being a CEO for over 20 years, productivity is very important to the organization. Productivity, usually we're looking at it from the output of the person and how we can actually get more products, more project, more inputs out of our human resources. This is why we call people human resources. So productivity for me, when I always looked at it, was how can we better schedule project? How do we know when we can start things? As an organization, we are an organism. And productivity is like our blood. Without knowing what we produce, we will not be able to know what outcome, what is our value creation based on. And productivity is very important. And I believe always in human. And human productivity should be above everything else in organization.
And the thing is, what we need to understand is that we are all productive in our different ways, right? So what productivity looks to one person may actually exhaust and drain another person. So when we then don't understand the subtle differences, we start comparing ourselves to each other. We start competing, and that's how then we form opinions and judgments, and it can lead to a lot of conflicts within organizations, within teams. And that's why I personally lean heavily on human design. And I talk a lot about human design at at the events I speak at. And if you're listening and you are not familiar with human design, it's a framework which is actually, I believe, is overtaking rather some of the more traditional approaches. You can think of it as like Myers-Briggs DISC Strengths Finder, but it introduces one very important element to it, our energy. And if you think about it, we are all energy. Like science already tells us that we are 99.99% energy. So how can we overlook such an important aspect of ourselves? And we are all unique, not just on a biological and physical and chemical and other layers, but also energetically too. And by understanding how energetically we are wired to operate, to use, and to exchange our energy with other people will drastically improve our productivity and literally will help us to accomplish a lot more in a lot less time. So I'm just going to briefly introduce you to human design, and then I'll pass it over to you, Sarit. Human design, as I've already mentioned, it's a framework, and it's a blend of quantum physics, genetics, biogenetics, and also esoteric sciences. So it's a blend of ancient and modern scientists. And at its very foundation, it introduces us to 5 energy type. And 5 energy type, you can think of them as like profiles and Myers-Briggs, but every single type, they are designed to stay productive very differently. They also have their own set of skills and the strengths that they bring into organization. So just to give you an example, these 5 types are generator, manifesting generator, projector, manifestor, and a reflector. So for example, me and Sarit are both generators. And what it means is that we have consistent energy to do things. But there is a very, very crucial element to that. In order for us to stay productive, to stay engaged, excitement is the key part of it. And I know personally, when I was working back in IT, we were working on this project where I was literally going 3 days with hardly any sleep, but I felt so excited by it that I was pretty much unstoppable. I had this natural energy to go on. But then afterwards, I had to document a piece of code, and that completely drained me because I was out of alignment with my energy type. Then you have somebody else on your team, for example, whose energy is best suited not just to work consistently. In fact, they can't keep consistent energy, but the energy is best suited to initiate, to be that fire starter, to get the ball rolling. And trying to keep up with people who are here to work and build can drain them. And that's why I believe understanding this important piece of information about how unique we are energetically can really help us to approach productivity in a new and more efficient way.
What we are basically trying to convey here is that energy usually, productivity usually was connected to motivation. And we usually thought about a lot of things that motivate people, which is culture and behavior and a lot of parameters. It's been discussed as long, I think, as in organization has been incorporated, because productivity, especially of the human resource, is very crucial. In high-tech companies, usually the human resources is one of the most costly resources. And what we are offering you is, instead of looking at motivation from usually culture perspective and other aspects like culture and so on, we are introducing another parameter to the equation, which is energy, which we don't think was ever thought about, the connection between energy and productivity. And in the new future of work, we already explained that we believe it changes in the way we are seeing things that been discussed in organization for a long time need to maybe get a new perspective, and energy is one of them. We believe that we are energetic people, and energy is what motivates us and get us going. It actually the fuel that drives us to achieve goals, to provide company value. Lena introduced one way to look at it, which is human design, which I was introduced to that actually by Lena, and I was as a manager, very, very excited about it, because it provides five major types that actually provides me as a manager the ability to look at people and understand how to talk to them. It doesn't hurt, it's a new perspective, and I feel this is great. And in regards to myself, I know that for me, I never did, and I was fortunate enough to do only the things that I'm excited about. That's the way I operate, and I'm always excited about what I do. So usually 24 hours went like that. I can go in Corona. I can go. I had the global team. Everybody was calling me and saying, "You're still up?" Yes, I'm still up. I'm always up, and I'm always enthusiastic, and I'm always awake, and always like it was the first thing and the only thing that I did when somebody spoke to me or asked me a question. But I do know that energy should maintain. And usually when we look at energy, we look at food, we look at how much we are sleeping. And that's definitely part of the parameters of how we operate energy. And this is what our machine is operating on. Our human bodies is based on energy. But another thing is maybe the way what task are we doing, how people are talking to us. It's also something that we need to understand. We can, sleep and come back to work until vacation. We're going to be presented with a test that does not resonate with what we call what I like to do. It doesn't really matter how much energy I have, what did I eat, how comfortable I am. I'm not tired at all. I would still have difficulties to doing this task because I would going to invest so much energy and actually the organization is going to get a very small task that does not bring them value. And that's basically what human design is currently offering you, to take another perspective. Right, Lena? I got this right? I'm a good student?
I think you touch on a really important topic, and I often talk about it, is that when we think about energy, we think about food, exercise, sleep, positive mindsets, and we know it's all great. But I'm here to tell you that no matter how much you exercise and great food you eat, if you live out of alignments with that core energetic DNA that every single one of us has, no amount of healthy food and exercise are really going to help you radiate that energy to the way at least you are capable of. So you're always going to limit yourself, you're going to cap yourself, and working on things like what Sarit said that actually energize and inspire you is crucial to your energy, especially for the two types that I've mentioned. Because, and the reason behind it is because those two types, which is a generator and manifesting generator, they are the only people who generate that energy within themselves, meaning that they don't need to be in a specific environment with the people. They are the doers, and the way they generate the energy is through their excitement, because you know, when you're feeling excited, when you're passionate about something, you naturally just feel better. And that's why, you know, I've got some really good tips for that. One of them is always start your day with something you are most excited by. So if you've got your to-do list, look at the to-do list and it's like, okay, this feels most exciting. Don't save the best for last. That's the biggest mistake that people make, because by the time you get to the best, it does not feel like a best anymore. If you start your day with something, you just have to get things off your list, but you're feeling drained by them. But if you swap it around and you start your day with something you inspire, that energizes you, that uplifts you, three things will happen. And this is tested, proven methods. I've tested it on myself and many other generators, especially. If you start your day on a high, then one of three things happen. Either by the time you get to the thing that drains you, you're actually feeling so uplifted, so energized that you do this task and maybe half the time, or somebody else will come to you and say, hey, do you need help? And you're like, yeah, sure, do that thing. Or the third thing, by the time you get to it, it doesn't even have to be done, because so many things, so many times we do things because we think we must do them, but actually when you look at it, maybe it doesn't even need to be done.
I want to add another thing to the equation. Productivity usually is something that we are comparing ourselves to others. And I would like to ask you that when you are talking about yourself and you want to feel that you're providing value, and also as a manager, look at everyone individually. Don't compare. People are different. It's not going to help if you're going to compare yourself to somebody else, or even between the team member. You're providing a task, look at yourself at the most accurate, very down to earth, very tactical, meaning, for example, if you are a salesperson, look only, now I know that there is a lot of tests created that are connected to actually how you're supposed to get to actually your quota, how many emails you should do, how many phone calls, how many remote control. That's great, but don't measure your productivity around that. At the end of the day, look at the goal. Did you achieve your target? Are you sitting on the dollar value that you should need? I can take this example even in a project or an R&D task. If you got a task to do on a certain date, somebody got 3 and you got 1, don't compare yourself to others. That was your date, that was your task. Did you achieve it or not? It's like when we are measuring our achievement at sports. It doesn't really matter what the other person did, maybe, or on a diet. Maybe it's easier for somebody else to lose weight. Always compare yourself to yourself. Make sure that compared to yourself, you're achieving your goals. You are doing what you need to do. You're on top of your task. You're on top of the things that you need to do per day. Because when we are comparing, we are more frustrated, and that is definitely energy that is not invested in productivity and getting you to your goal. So productivity and comparison, I say let it go. Let it go, even as managers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, comparison, judgment, self-judgment, guilt, like, why can't I keep up with others? Why can't I be as fast? Why can't I be doing this? Because you are not them. That's it. We all have our own blueprints, and sometimes we just can't push against it. And when we do, that's when the stress, burnouts, whatever, you know, that's when we get like emotional flare-ups. And just to quickly, revert to human design, we can take two very opposite energy types, a reflector and a manifestor. And reflector, they're very rare. They make like 1% of population, but those are the people who really need time alone. They are like barometers. They're like health barometers of teams, organizations. They need to like pause, observe, and reflect. While manifestors, they are lightning fast. They're like everywhere. They're like starting things, and not just one thing, but multiple things at the same time. They move super fast. So if you put those two people together and the reflector is going to try to behave like a manifester, they're just not going to last long really in organizations. So it's very different dynamics, and those people should be looked at very differently as to what their productivity looks like.
And also remember, we only live in the present moment. So even if you have a gazillion tasks on your table, okay, do the one that is in front of you the best way that you can. And in this minute, my head, my energy, my thoughts are not going to what I need to do next. Okay? Because first you are dividing your energy, so you're not giving full attention to the task in front of you, and also you're putting a pressure on yourself. And productivity also measured by the value of the output that you are doing in a certain task. So if you're doing everything half, 50% because your energy is all over the place because you're not focused, that's not productivity. And that was my first tip when I was a support manager, and we had like a gazillion tickets because we had like a major output one day, and in a minute of 10 minutes we had like 10,000 tickets. My tip was every ticket that we are opening is a customer. So give your full attention to the customer that you open the ticket, because if not, we're going to give, sorry, pardon my French, shitty service to all of them. So at least let's give a good service to the one that we open the ticket and we provide. Stay focused. Don't spread your energy. That is definitely not productive overall.
Yeah, and I just want to like share one last tip that really worked for me. I was a contractor at Morgan Stanley a few months ago, and me and my colleague, who's also a generator like me, and he also needs to feel inspired by the things she does. So we used to do task swapping. For example, I hate documentation. It's like the worst thing you can give me, documentation in Excel. While she loves documentation and she doesn't mind Excel, but she didn't really like doing dashboards. And I love fiddling with dashboards. So we used to swap tasks. And I promise you, if you work with teams and you've got, people around you, just ask them. Like, ask them if I can swap things with you.
I have a question for you. Why did you went to a month ago? We are partners, and I don't like to do stuff. You like to do stuff. This is how we do stuff. And
well, I'm kind of like talking about the corporate, right? The world where like make it
we're on a business. We're co-founder of 9 to 5 Spirituality. And if you didn't know, we open an Instagram. I really like to do reels.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really like reels. It's like too finicky, but yeah, so Reed loves it. And I would much rather focus on YouTube, and I love doing that, and I love writing content. So yeah. So anyways, when it comes to workplace, just find someone, because what drains one person can energize another. So just ask, like, hey guys, do you want to do this? Let's swap. It worked well. It worked really well for me.
Lena, it's like the secondhand store. One shirt.
Yeah, so that's the shopping trip that I'm not going to talk about.
So we hope you got some tips. If you have any question, please share it on the comment. We will be happy to, just extend on something that wasn't clear. If you have questions, if you want to consult with us, we will be so happy and honored to take part in your journey. So,
sorry, I thought you were finished. No, okay.
Oh.
And yeah, I've recorded also a video on 5 different human design types. It's in our playlist for manifestation, I believe. So if you want to take a look there, have a look there. We're also going to do another video, or I'll record another video on how to help you to make decisions based on your human design type. And I genuinely know, I don't even believe, because I know from personal experience how it can completely transform how you work, how you live your life, how you show up, and you will be able to gain so much more personal type and just get your energy back.
Worth watching.
Thank you. We'll see you next video.
Like, subscribe, and share. Until next time.